school had been a very close part of my life. I mean, it was near and dear to me. We started to look over photographs, and from the photographs we realized that a lot of them were not labeled. A lot of them didn't have any year on them. In fact, the same thing also occurred with St. Michael's, and that comes later. But basically that's what started me in archives, was that the school history was a little bit ragged, and it so happened that the photographs in this case were in the library, and started to look at these photos, label them, and the next thing you knew, we were on our way to forming the archives. So it was the sort of an ignition of the beginning of our archives.
I think the archives are critical, particularly for St. Michael's Old Boys. We use the term now alumni, alumna, alumnus, but for us in that era, it was always an old boy, so that's the term I tend to use. Every university school old boy and SMU alumnus and alumna identify with this beautiful Mount Tommy campus. St. Michael's School old boys don't. And therefore, the archives are the most important for them because it's the location where all the memories and connections they have with the school are kept.
I have regarded always that the history of this school has been a fabulous one. And I feel that wonderful international history is an asset, and it's a tool that this school can use to its benefit in order to attract students and their families to want to come here in the future, to make people feel that they'd like to be a part of this scene that was so famous and so noteworthy for 100 years. And that if they learn more about the school's history, it will only increase their interest and their desire to come here. That prospective parents should know more about the history of this school, so they'll feel more inclined to enroll their students here. And that potential donors should know as much as can be shown to them about the school's history to make them more inclined to want to donate to something that's really special.
Photographs like that are wonderful, but if they don't have any names attached to them, they are just history pieces, and the place for them is in a museum. The job of an archives, in which St. Michael's Archives or the job that it's doing, is putting the names to those photographs, and that makes the connection to the school living. It's a living connection that's maintained. It's not just the museum piece. So particularly for St. Michael's, it's critical, and our job now at the archives is trying gradually to disinter all the wonderful stories that are buried there.
The Kerr Cup is the most prestigious cup given the school to the top person in grade 12. And it's a keeper. And because it's a keeper, we've got about 3 of them which have been given back to the school. So we have in archives 3 Kerr Cups, I think. And we have the original, which was 1923, awarded to Fred Pollard. W.W. Bolton, one of the founders of University School, was an excellent athlete. He was a 3A athlete in England and Cambridge Blue in athletics. And we've got 2 or 3 of his cups, his track cups. And if I recall, I think one of them's dated 1877, handsome cup. So there are a couple of Bolton cups, his personal cups. We have memorabilia, documents, which pertain to the presence of our founders, Barnacle, Bolton, Harvey for University School, and there's a lot of Simon's family memorabilia, pertaining to St. Michael's School.
The roll books of the old years, of the entire school, but particularly for the old years, are really fascinating because they include all the marks as well as the attendance. So there's lots of information there in between the lines, lots of other records which hold communications with the old boys. But from time to time, there are some really memorable discoveries, one of which is the subject of this article, which is a stuffed cougar's head from 1916. And it is featured as one of the main characters in this story in the School Ties. So I encourage people to read that. And I hope that through telling the stories of the archives, which create not an intellectual connection with the school, but the visceral one that we love to feel, that we can draw some of those old contemporaries of mine and who were at the school during my era back to the school, to know that not only was the school part of their life, but in fact the opposite is true as well. It works the other way, that the school feels that the boys were part of its family and its life, and it just loves to have them come back. I have, for most of the time I've been there, I have been working on this series of photographs to name as many boys as I can, going back from my years in the 60s, right through going backwards to the 1920s and 1910s when it started. That's almost finished, and we have very, very high, through the help of several old boys who've come in and spent a good deal of time adding the names from their era. I've been trying to fill in all the gaps, and that's a very enriching experience for me and I think for the school. But there are hundreds of stories to uncover, disinter, that are lying there. And I would very much love to dig into them, to meet old boys who would be willing to talk about their memories, their time at the school, their impressions after so many years, so that we have them to bind us together. And so that's what I'd like to work on next.
The archives needs an elegant setting in order to impress people of its true value. And I want to see, I'm hoping very much that the school community will build on this idea to create a new home for the archives in the heart of the school. One idea I've had is to build a new archives at or near Brown Hall, and then Brown Hall be restored to its former beauty, accurately and authentically restored in every detail, to look like it looked in 1958, where prospective parents can be encouraged to visit and entertain and enjoy a lecture and enjoy the school's history and increase their participation.